The problem is you think that you're finding your dad and you're not seeing you're being your mom. That's why you keep on finding him. You're her, said Aramis casually in his kitchen. Recently, we all found ourselves going to each other's apartment to hang out as a method of saving money and still feeling like we could be social beings. He was making some churrasco and chatting with me while I plastered some tostones. Yet at that moment, being completely red, so simply, so accurately, that amidst butter knives and plantains I committed the ancient Japanese ritual of seppuku, when a samurai warrior sticks their own sword in themselves as a form of avoiding their enemies or shame. I was avoiding both, but this time the enemy was myself, and I hated it. However intelligent I might be, life has consistently shown me that my ability to think I know so much leaves me for stupid. I had never considered that perhaps why I find my dad in most of my male dynamics, and even a few female ones, is because I was my mother. Not only my reaction to life, but in picking the people who can enter my life. You would always complain about how nice she was to him, he said, flipping the skinny skirt steak before him. He was dropping my truths as if I was the only one he was cooking. Still, it was true. Often I fight with my mom because she never sees me or my feelings, and how I too can have valid, virtuous approaches to life that are even better than hers. For most of my life, I thought she was raising me to be better than her, but when I was, I got chastised. And now I see she was raising me to be the best of her, or what she thought was the best of her, even if it wasn't. In her head, letting my dad steal from us, verbally assault us, and then forcing him to take me out to a family dinner was somehow a lesson on loyalty, compassion, acceptance, and radical forgiveness. Yet, for who? It was my biggest resentment, that the grace my mother held for everyone but me. And I connected how little grace she had with herself for why she didn't have grace for me. My mother raised me to be her, and she was hard on herself, and I cannot help but feel like most of my toxic relationships ended because I could no longer avoid that I outgrew you, that I didn't agree with you in virtue or values. And that all those moments I had with these persons, I had rewritten to make them, in my head, this grand human being, and me the worst. He left us homeless, didn't he? My mother said meekly. As we looked at his love letters and their wedding photos a few months ago, my mother and I had had a huge fight because the past is a tricky thing for us to approach. We want to leave it behind, but there are parts of our present that are directly linked. When I was little, my father took my mother's money and claimed he was paying the rent of the apartment he was now kicked out of, after her finding out he was committing bigamy. My mother was very sick in my younger years, and sometimes I think that is why at least she trusted him so much and gave him so much responsibilities that he consistently failed. Yet I do not know why that approach lasted for most of my life. Now, after our disastrous daddy-daughter reunion, my mother was more willing to accept he was evil, and seeing the things he did to her that left her damaged in every way, from personal foundation to finances. Yet she still fought to be right, even when recounting how others did her wrong. Yet I was different. With so many tower moments in my life, I was officially acknowledging I put myself in that damn tower, and I was ready for the relationships to crumble. It felt more freeing to say my role, but my mother was not ready for that freedom, and I understood why. When Aramis declared over a sizzling steak I was approaching daddy recovery all wrong, I may have been my father's abuse victim, but I was my mother's student in how to deal with such things. And it totally explained why I kept on getting the losers back into my life. My dad was a loser, and my mother taught me how to tolerate them. It's something about someone beyond me seeing me better than I see myself held that inherent seppuku energy. I was a warrior known for her strength in fighting life's battles, but completely ignoring that some of them I happily put myself into. Even worse, some of those battles I swore were attacks, but I entered the trenches of other people's lives and somehow absolved myself when they used me as a shield for their worst behavior or launched a war at me. God, I hate when someone clocks me, I said internally as I asked him to make my steak a little rare. All right, let's discuss, let's heal. Okay, so in this episode of Daddy Recovery, I talk about how I was with Aramis and we were cooking, and I think everybody is just having this moment of like, we're all so broke that we're just hanging out with we're just hanging out in each other's houses, like we're just watching movies. And I've written a few articles about that, of just how kind of everybody's reverting to smallness, because where's the money? Like, is there money on this planet? Is it really only in 5 people's hands? Find these people. And it was this wonderfully beautiful, absolutely enraging, disgusting moment of having somebody see me better than I see myself, because he was like, you keep on finding your dad because you're your mom. And it was like, tell any woman that and she will just leave the planet. Like, she will, quicker than Elon Musk, find a spaceship and make it and just get out of the whole entire planet. And I hadn't seen it from that perspective. I really thought Daddy Recovery, I made Daddy Recovery to kind of document the stories behind my songs and document my growth as an artist, because I am 100% guilty of the artist's way and this thing I do of putting myself next to the things I want but never in it, of putting myself, of giving my heart to people that just showed interest in me and resenting that they leave because they lost interest. And in my head, I lost love, right? I lost time. And I didn't realize that was something my mother did. My mother gave grace to everybody except herself and always tried to make me like her, yet accused me of, even as a kid, you're trying to make me you. And it really is demented when you think about it. But I think it's that our parenting methods can be, whether we know it or acknowledge it, a trauma response. And my mother thought she was protecting me by convincing me and teaching me how to handle my dad's abuse and his evil and his toxicity and his cruelty and his sabotage. But I think there was a part of her that just can't believe she landed in this con man's game, because he was a con and he was known for how many scams he did on people, especially for money. And she really thought she was walking into the sunset with this guy, and he was a bigamist. And it tore her apart, because my mother prides herself on her intelligence. And no matter how you frame the story, people are going to call you dumb. And the worst part is, you may have been dumb sometimes. You may have not even naive, just like stupid, just like ignored the pink flags, the red flags, the all flags. And when he said that, it totally flipped my perspective of Daddy Recovery and made me acknowledge something that I was ignoring because I'm so protective of my mom as a person, not even as a daughter, just as somebody that I don't know how to be a proper human being. I don't always know what's the right way to react to my own problems, to my own situations, to my own dreams. And I don't want to judge somebody who I know so intimately and so privately and have known all my life, aka my mom, because she didn't know how to handle my dad. But I do have to judge her for how she handled me. And even that can be like a bit of a jagged pill, because the reason I bring up how my dad left us homeless, and you hear about it in a prior episode, is that he did. My mother was very sick. Like, my mother has always been sick all my life, and I think if you were raised by like an unhealthy parent, there's a loneliness to that, and there's a struggle because you have this person who's always, their energy level is always on low, and people have the tendency to think that you become a saint because you're sick, because you're this, because you're like, no, you still have a personality. And it was really hard to have my needs met, have my wants met, or even vocalize them, because I had a father who was horrible and maniacal. And then I had a mom who was sick and just was obsessed with getting through everything without always taking the time to know what we were getting through. And that's because, like, I remember being 8 years old and she's like, when I pass, you're going with my best friend. And people don't have that conversation with their kid. That's not even fathomable as a possibility. And you don't prepare them like that. But my mom had so many illnesses and health battles and hospital visits. And my dad used it to his advantage. So she was giving him money to pay for rent because she was so sick. She couldn't even carry me. And he just stopped paying rent. And one day she went back to the apartment and all the furniture was gone. And the landlord said, yeah, you've stopped paying and I send you a notice that I was going to sell all your furniture and kick you out. And it turns out that was my dad and he used it for drugs. So he was a cutie. He was a cutie patootie. And we had this huge fight because my grandmother was telling me the story and how I was like, she was holding me, I was 3 years old, and she couldn't believe my dad did that. And then my mother was like, he didn't do that. It was the landlord that was bad. And was like, why are you still defending this guy? And we were gathering, my father sent my mother love letters up until like a few years ago, actually. He sent her love letters all his life, all my life, really. And it was always these love letters talking about how she was the best thing that ever happened to him. He doesn't actually love his other family. They only use him for money. Oh, I missed you. Come back. Like all the ways she made him feel good and not ever acknowledging the ways he made her feel bad. And my mother really changed perspectives on my father after how badly this daddy-daughter reunion went. That started daddy recovery, so blessings are hidden. And she just had this moment of like quiet where she was like, he did leave us homeless, like all of a sudden. And I was like, yes, he did. Yes, he did, ma'am. Yes, he did. I'm glad you're saying this because he did. And obviously, we're still going to be arrogant and even when we're humbled. And it was this moment of, you were right, I was wrong, but no one's saying sorry, and we're going to continue. And I think ultimately with this episode, what I wanted to gather was just this realization that you do need others to call you out. You do need others to see you. And you know somebody loves you when they don't say it in judgment. Like he just like casually dropped that grandiose epiphany on me, like an egg on my head. And he said it in the simplest kind of like, you're not seeing it from the right perspective. And not even like calling me wrong, saying there's a better way. And I genuinely didn't view myself like that. I genuinely didn't think that I was approaching life like my mom, despite oddly seeing it and having these moments. And that's the thing about daddy recovery and why it could be so hard to be so open with myself. And you're in it too. You follow these patterns and you don't even realize it. And then nobody teaches you how to heal. There's no examples. Like you always meet like the guru trying to charge you like $50 on the self-help book, or these people that I'm healed, I swear, and you're like, you didn't even get the wound, okay? I think my struggle is balancing kind of this permission to call my dad a loser, to call my dad a villain and be angry about it, but also a permission to accept it and grow from it and see the ways I've become a loser, the ways I've become even a lighter form of a jerk that he was. That's impossible, actually. Let me not say that. But yeah, and it's very like, it was hard not to want to get arrogant. Like, how dare you say that, sir, in British? Because he just saw me so like chef's kiss. And I hate when people see me before I see myself, because that was part of what it is to deal with a parent that is purposefully destroying you. Like my dad, it's you have to be perfect, and you have to be hyper vigilant, and you have to pick up all their moods and everything they like about you, everything they don't like about you. And here was this person who was saying that there is a little something dislikable about me, or there is something I don't know about me, for however hyper vigilant I am. And the fact that I missed it, had he told me that a few years ago, I probably would have been like, I'm out. Burn the stake. This friendship's over. But now I do need that, and I'm lucky that I have that, and I'm lucky I have that in good friends. So, cheers to humility. Check out daddyrecovery.com for all my stories. Follow me. And my artist name is Hadidin, and you're going to be seeing some of my songs. So